Welcome to this video on the Great Depression, causes, impact, and recovery. This transformative decade reshaped America's economy, government, and society, providing lessons that still guide us through economic crises today. This presentation is brought to you by the Series of Thoughts team as part of their economic education program. We begin with Chapter 1, exploring the Roaring Twenties and the build-up to the crisis. The Roaring Twenties saw extraordinary optimism and industrial growth fueled by new technologies and a, quote, buy now, pay later culture. However, underlying structural problems included collapsed agricultural prices and extreme wealth inequality, meaning most Americans lacked the purchasing power to sustain the boom. Stock market speculation created a dangerous bubble. Practices like buying on margin amplified risk. Valuations soared, detached from corporate earnings, driven by irrational exuberance. As ordinary citizens poured savings into stocks, convinced prices would rise forever. In October 1929, panic hit Wall Street. Within days, fortunes vanished, and the confident optimism of the Roaring Twenties gave way completely to fear and uncertainty. Chapter 2 examines the crash and immediate causes that led to the onset of the Great Depression. The crash unfolded over days. Black Thursday, October 24th, began the panic selling. Black Monday, the 28th, saw a 13% plunge. Black Tuesday, October 29th, brought complete collapse, with 16 million shares traded. The market lost nearly half its value that month, signaling deeper economic weaknesses. The crash exposed severe underlying weaknesses: an overproduction crisis, extreme wealth inequality, declining international trade exacerbated by the Smoot-Hawley tariff, and a weak banking system vulnerable to panic. Between 1930 and 1933, over 9,000 banks failed, wiping out depositors' savings. The Federal Reserve made the crisis worse by contracting the money supply by 1/3, strangling credit, and accelerating the downturn. Chapter 3 focuses on the depths of the Depression and the human cost of the collapse. The economic collapse was staggering. GDP declined by 33%, and the unemployment rate soared to 25%. Industrial production was cut in half, and the stock market lost 89% of its value. These numbers reflect immense human suffering and widespread loss of economic security. The human impact was widespread, marked by, quote, Hoovervilles, homeless encampments named after the president. The Dust Bowl created environmental and economic devastation. Malnutrition became common among children. For millions, the struggle was for basic survival. Scenes like these, thousands lined up daily for free bread and soup, symbolized the failure of traditional relief efforts and the sheer scale of the crisis in America's cities. Chapter 4 examines the competing economic theories and policy responses of the era. Classical economic theory, dominant at the time, held that markets were self-correcting and government intervention would only prolong the crisis. President Hoover, constrained by this thinking, relied on voluntary cooperation, and his efforts proved inadequate against the scale of the economic spiral. Keynesian economics emerged, rejecting the classical view. John Maynard Keynes argued that government must act as the, quote, spender of last resort to inject demand and restart growth when private spending collapses. This provided the intellectual foundation for new policies. Chapter 5 discusses the New Deal and recovery efforts, instituted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt's New Deal brought an unprecedented expansion of federal power. Key initiatives included banking reform through the FDIC, massive relief programs like the WPA, agricultural support, labor protections, and the creation of Social Security and the Securities and Exchange Commission. In a radical move, Roosevelt abandoned the gold standard in April 1933. This allowed the Federal Reserve to expand the money supply without constraint, ending the crushing deflationary spiral and proving essential for economic recovery. Recovery was not smooth. Encouraged by improvement in 1936, Roosevelt and Congress prematurely cut spending and raised taxes in 1937, leading to a sharp recession. This proved that fiscal support must continue until recovery is self-sustaining, validating Keynesian theory. Chapter 6 concludes our video, focusing on the end of the Depression and its lasting impact. The Depression fully ended with the massive government spending triggered by World War II. Defense production created an enormous fiscal stimulus, reaching 40% of GDP, which finally eliminated unemployment by 1943. The war demonstrated Keynesian economics on an unprecedented scale. The Depression resulted in permanent changes. an expanded federal role in the economy, a robust social safety net like Social Security, significant financial system reforms, and a strong labor movement. These legacies shaped post-war American life. Modern economic policy adopted crucial lessons. Central banks must be activists during crises, deposit insurance prevents bank runs, and automatic stabilizers help cushion recessions. Though debates continue, the Depression fundamentally changed how governments approach economic stability. The Great Depression stands as the defining catastrophe of the 20th century. It proved that markets need guardrails, validated active government management, and established a new social compact for economic security. Understanding this history is essential for navigating future economic storms.